I wanted to develop paintings, but paintings that weren't done with paint. And I think lots of that was to do with the divides that seem to exist in the art world or at art school between fine art and craft or non-fine art. So I really wanted to marry the two. All art is, as worthy as the next. Today I'm coming up to Thornalee in the Tweed Valley. At this time of year in the autumn, it's one of my favourite places to gather inspiration. There's something quite magical, I think, about the Tweed Valley. I've always been drawn to it. I also live here now, so I've got lots of inspiration on my doorstep. For the kind of work I do, I have to do it in my studio because a bit of wind like this and the materials would fly away. So I come, sketch, take photos, and then go back and work in my studio. I sketch, I think, just at ideas. So I like to think of a sketchbook as a visual diary. To start with, I'm just trying to get a bit of form from a couple of the trees that I'm looking at that I quite like the shape and colours of. So what I really want to do is just document just the way that some of the branches go, where the light and where the dark is, and just some of the marks. I find it really relaxing being out within the landscape that I'm working in. I guess that also depends on the weather though. Probably wouldn't do much more with this one. I feel that I've captured the bits that I want to capture. So I think I'm just going to go back to my studio to do a felted painting. I grew up in a very creative family. There's quite a lot of writers and artists, and one of my uncles in particular taught me to paint since I was really young. So he was my inspiration and sort of a bit of a mentor. This is Merino Fleece, and it's the finest quality that you can use for felt making, and I buy it ready dyed. Everyone asks, do I dye it myself? And it's kind of like asking if you make your own paints, it would be a full-time job. And the first thing that I do is to blend colours. So as you would if you were painting, mixing colours, this is sort of my palette. And these are called carders, so they're just like two big brushes. And what they do is they mix colours together. Just want to cover the base initially. I don't want to replicate something exact, but with this medium it would be really difficult to do that anyway. When I started, I guess I didn't think that I'd be doing this, using this medium for so long. I think it stays interesting because the fibres have a life of their own. So it's impossible to do two the same. But for me, that's really what's really special about it. So I was at Glasgow School of Art, which I loved, but I really wanted to get out of the city. And having come to the Scottish borders during my time at Glasgow to visit all the old textile mills, I was quite drawn to it. It just, feels like where I was meant to be. So the next stage is the wet felting. So I'm going to cover it with mesh, soap and hot water, and mat the fibres together just by rubbing it. What felting actually is, if you can think about if you put a wool jumper in too hot a wash, it mats the fibres together and shrinks it. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm just rolling the piece into a bamboo mat. It speeds up the felting process. At this stage, I'm finished the rolling. Once I've rinsed the soap out, I dry it on top of the aga, and then I'll start on the next stage, which will be needle felting. I think traditionally, and I don't really understand why, but craft, anything craft based was looked or deemed inferior to fine art. And I've never really gotten that. I think you get a texture and a depth with these fibres that actually would be very, very difficult to ever get with paint. I think this is probably finished now, and I'm quite happy with the results. I think colour is therapy. I think colour is a really, really important thing in your life, and to have a piece of artwork that you look at that picks you up and makes you feel good is what I want to achieve with my art.